Heyo, what is up everyone? It is the Alpha J of the Alpha J Show, and I have a gift for you. I've noticed you around and I can never get the courage to speak to you until today, so I got this gift for you. It's a gift of talking about a show that I've never talked about before. Wait, am I late? Yeah, I'm late. It's been a few days, huh? Aw heck, I still want to use this lovely still in my thumbnail, so I'm doing it anyway. The Looney Tunes show has been on my plate for a while, and while I've never thought this would be the first time I was going to cover it, boy am I glad to finally talk about the show. This episode starts off with a very neat exposition shot. I like how it feels as though this world was made, and not just a world that exists in another dimension, with the paint splatter effect, and how this is a reboot that doesn't leech off of its previous incarnations, but doesn't have a contempt for it. Now, the Looney Tunes show and Teen Titans Go have one thing in common. Both shows are a reboot in which the general mood and structure of the show has been flip-flopped. While Teen Titans started off pretty much a lot more serious, and it involved a lot more superhero fights in a mature atmosphere, and was story-driven, the original Looney Tunes theatrical shorts were generally known for being very loose, often having very little in terms of a story, tons of comedy which created the cornerstone of animation, and it never treated itself too seriously, knowing its audience and knowing its intention. The Looney Tunes show, however, connects character relationships, and it doesn't mind being much more relaxed and tightened with the story that it tells. And instead of being a comedic string of sketches, it opts to form a slice of life story revolving around highly developed and primed for comedy characters. This episode would go to show just that, using the theme of love. Also, some may be quick to call out the generic naming of the stores. However, due to the fact that this shot isn't on screen that much and changing it to something more witty, while minutely adding a bit more to this episode is ultimately nitpicking, and it's not even worth entertaining that thought. We have Daffy here, who is attempting to get the attention of a store worker named Tina, but more on that later. Notice here how Daffy rings the bell and Tina doesn't do much, almost as if she never hears anything. She's very laid back in this episode, with very slow reaction times, and a certain way of responding to the chaos around her. By the way, the chaos is still here, it's just adjusted to a slice of life.
Can I help you?
Daffy Duck, picking up my business card.
How's the wizard business going?
Great, lots of magic, spells, things like that.
That'll be $215.25.
I really love the voices of Tina and Lola in the series. Maybe it's because I was born there, but her accent comes across that she was born somewhere in the Northeast, possibly the tri-state. Also, the dynamic between Daffy and Tina is really cool, arguably better than the one between Lola and Bugs, at least in this series, mind you. And Daffy Duck is a goofball, a habitual liar, and a weasel who does as little as possible in his efforts to get as far as possible in his own self-centered desires. Case in point, despite ordering a bunch of business cards, labeling himself as a wizard, he doesn't have the money to pay for it. Instead of coming clean, he would rather continue the lie that he knows is a lie and prance around pretending to be a wizard. This will come into play much later. We then get this fancy restaurant, who is doing the old drop a business card in this glass container, and the winner gets a free dinner for two. Now, this episode never really explains not only how Daffy knew this, or why he cares enough to eventually dump the cards in plain sight and replace them with his in plain sight, but I do have a loosely connected reason. This episode also, conveniently enough, doesn't explain why Daffy wanted to make business cards. So one can connect two and two, and again, although yes, it would be nice if the episode made a passing comment mentioning the restaurant, whether with Daffy stating that he wants to go, maybe having him overhear it or something, it doesn't take away that the connection isn't there. Now, although the show isn't the most comedic, specifically in its main bread and butter, as the show features other smaller things, such as songs and the Wile E Coyote and Road Runner skits, that doesn't mean it isn't 100% not funny. It's just in different places.
I guess I have to do everything around here.
So Daffy, after stuffing his business cards in the glass container at the fancy restaurant, gets a call that he is the quote-unquote lucky person to receive a complimentary dinner for two.
What are you doing Friday night? Nothing.
Wrong. You are giving a speech on how such a large container of water, so heavy that you couldn't even flip it over, managed to smash into your face and you got up with not even the tiniest bit of a blemish. Whatever you are doing needs to be studied, dissected, distributed, and improved on because it is a bamboo godsend. Daffy approaches Bugs for a date, and he obviously says no. Then he approaches Porky Pig on a date, and Bugs instructs him to ask a girl. However, in the midst of that, while Daffy is asking Porky, he leaves Porky with the impression that he's still on a date with Daffy. I like that. And although Porky doesn't get too much highlights in this episode, he's not like Mr. Gus or post-movie, pre-sequel Squidward. He does have moments where he gets back at the people who have wronged him. That's another episode upon the pile of episodes that I want to talk about from this series, upon the pile of episodes that I want to cover in general.
But I have horrible luck with women. We'll split a salad and keep the bread coming. No woman should be judged on her looks. But if I had to, I'd say you're about a 4.5. You have a little something on your face. Ooh, wait. That's the part of your face.
I think one of my favorite things about this show is that, like shows like Bob's Burgers, it doesn't need to show so much in-your-face humor to get you to laugh. Reactions are a big part of jokes sometimes, very much so in animation, for a younger audience. However, the progressively messed up stuff that Daffy does, in relation to the fact that he isn't lying by saying he doesn't have luck with women, and the fact that he isn't malicious when he selectively chooses to do things, like lie to a stranger about being a wizard, makes me gravitate towards seeing him succeed. He isn't intentional with the chaos that he ensues. So Daffy begs Bugs to call Lola, and we get this really funny call.
My friend Daffy needs some dating advice, and I thought maybe you could talk to him.
So you want me to help Daffy?
Yes.
Would that be a nice thing for me to do?
Yes.
And you like nice people?
Yes.
So if I help Daffy, you'll like me?
I guess.
Then I'll do it!
It plays on the unintentional replies and how Lola is just so crazy for Bugs. She really comes across craze in this episode, especially here, how she is now completely focused on Bugs, despite driving and hitting an oil truck later. I love the faces and how her eyes drift, not even being on the road, and how Bugs just never knows how to deal with any of this. In fact, she carries over into the next scene, where she gives Daffy a statement titled, "What Every Woman Wants to Hear," in which you can see her face tells it all. Her eyes glow, and she gets in that lovey-dovey sort of look. And the crazy thing, pardon the pun, is how insane the actual words of this letter is. She writes down that whomever reads this should get rid of their friends and family so they can just be together, just the two of them, because that's how Lola views ideal love. It does seem silly that by reading what she gave to Daffy, she falls in love, but the paper is titled What Every Woman Wants to Hear, and Lola's a woman, so you can't really blame that logic there. Plus, Lola doesn't strike me as someone who understands intent. So yes, she falls in love with Daffy, but Daffy goes to ask Tina at the copy place on said dates.
So, Tina, I was wondering if by any chance you're not doing anything tonight, which you probably are because you're not ugly, but if for some reason you're not, would you maybe possibly, no pressure if you can't, just wondering, would you like to go out with me? Maybe.
Yeah, I'd love to.
No stammering, no sweat, no cartoonish exaggerations. As I said, the Looney Tunes show is a very down-to-earth show, and it handles more like a slice of life. It reminds me of Mystery Girl, a review of Clarence I made a long while ago, where the movements are just so perfect to me. I love the dynamic between Tina and Daffy, but it gets so much better later on in the episode. Now, as the crazed, jealous, rejected soul that is Lola, she confronts Daffy with two under-the-radar jokes.
So you're gonna go out with her? What do you even know about this girl? She could be trouble. She could be dangerous. Not every girl is as stable as me.
Yeah, incredibly stable. One thing I do appreciate about this episode is that although the characters may do questionable things, they never come across as a bad person. It would be very binary of me to pass Lola's actions as bad because she's crazed and creepy, and she's a stalker when she's supposed to be crazed, creepy, and like a stalker. And to be honest, she isn't hurting anyone. It's not like she kidnaps Daffy and keeps him locked away or something like that. A story needs an antagonist, especially one as simple as this. She tries to come on to Daffy by tearing down Tina, and Daffy doesn't buy it. So what's her plan B, you may ask? Getting Bugs on a date, which he ends up taking, just not so easily. Now this next part is pretty slow, but for a good reason. It's used to set up the jealousy of Lola, the confusion of Bugs, and the nervous attraction of Daffy. And as much as I'd like to praise the writers for creating a good scene, I would just be repeating myself. So let's skip ahead a bit.
Are you reading something?
No, I need...
What all women want to hear? What woman wants to hear stuff like this? You're an insecure little weirdo who lies about everything and probably cries himself to sleep every night. You're like an abandoned building that ought to be condemned. But maybe if the right person got a hold of it and cleans it up, maybe they could take that disgusting building and turn it into something not so disgusting.
Are you that person?
Lucky for you, I like a project.
And am I that disgusting building?
Yeah.
That is the nicest thing that anyone has ever said about me.
They do continue this relationship beyond this episode, and it does evolve, and it goes through its own plots. What I like about this is that it isn't built on a lie. Tina sees right through Daffy. However, Tina willingly wants to help Daffy and sees something in Daffy that not even he himself sees. They end up having a great time after, and I like the analogy, and even to those who may not like the Lola stuff, I can see this making up for it. Now remember earlier how I mentioned that Bugs really didn't want to talk to Lola? Lola. Well, after Lola starts rejecting his jokes and not paying attention to him, Bugs then turns around, has a complete 180, and really wants Lola, playing hard to get in a sense.
All right, pull yourself together. Date's not over. We haven't even ordered yet. Chocolate mousse? They'll dip anything in chocolate these days. The point is, date's not over.
Don't give me that face. Yes, I know Bugs was talking to himself out loud while looking in a mirror, but your peeping Tom self looked at Bugs first. I'm not saying you can't sigh, but he's not weird for looking at you while you pee if you looked at him first, so wipe that look off your face.
Not all girls are what they seem, and there can only be one girl in your dream. I'll lose that girl with a made-up name. I said I'll lose that girl with a made-up name. I said I'll lose that girl with a made-up name and get with a girl who cared enough about you to break into your bedroom.
You know what's weird about this scene? She ends up singing for quite a while before anyone notices. I mean, yes, the lyrics aren't necessarily vague, but in the age we live in, I'm sure no one would have been the wiser. So Bugs ends up grabbing the mic, and upon noting that Lola is trying to, quote, get her boyfriend back, he claims that he is the one that Lola should be paying attention to, or more recklessly stated,
I'm your boyfriend.
So they all meet up and chat, leaving all of them with planning a new double date, and Bugs confused, devastated, and defeated. They end on a joke at Porky's expense, and this was Double Date. This episode was really good, and it is a start into my journey into the Looney Tunes show. It had really good pacing, and although Daffy was a weaselly liar, he was extremely likable because he didn't put up a front when the fire was put on him, both with Bugs earlier and Tina later. Both relationships have a dynamic, and although they can be similar in a way, with Tina and Bugs being the more mature of the chaos that is Daffy and Lola, the episode is really fun, and I can't recommend it enough. While I hope this late Valentine's Day gift was sufficient, and if not, well, there's always next year. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, follow me at the ALPHAJ Show, and go into my request video for anything else you think I should cover. If you really like this video, I highly suggest checking out my Mystery Girl review for more reviews on couples and whatnot. Make sure to subscribe and feel free to consider my Patreon, as always. I hope your time was well spent, and Alpha out.